So which is really a big problem. And like most of our farmers are actually producing, but then selling their produce is actually a big problem. So that is why ITC and Ministry of Trade deem it necessary to have such a solution to sort of like bring, to sort of like connect these producers who are in rural countries and these buyers who are in the urban Gambia. But then imagine developing a solution for farmers, because when we say we want to develop a software solution, mainly it's either a mobile app or a web application. But then a farmer cannot use a mobile app. A farmer cannot use a web application. One, because of literacy, a literacy problem. Most of them, maybe they're not educated. And then two, maybe some of them are in rural communities where there's virtually very poor internet connectivity or no internet connectivity. So, but then how can you then develop a solution that they can use so that they can at least be able to sell their produce? So then we thought over it and we said, oh yes, these people, they're in rural countries, yes, one. So we means, one, we have to develop a solution that they be able to use with or without internet connectivity. And then two, it means we have to develop a solution and then that they can use and be able to communicate with in their very own local language. So, and then we said, since the mobile penetration is very high in the country, with QCell, AfriCell, most of the GSM operator, even if you go to the farthest village, at least you can make a phone call. So, so which means that the solution has to be in a telephone base, and then two, it has to be in the local language. So now that was how we came about with this. But then we also look at the other players who are the buyers. Buyers are mainly hotels and restaurants. So if you go to hotels, restaurants, most of them, they're like educated, they can use mobile app or web application. So we said that the buyer component will be a web application. And then the website is currently live now. It's called jokkalanteplatform.com. So buyers can log in and then place their orders. So for the farmer aspect of it is telephone-based, wherein farmers just dial the phone number of the platform and then follow the instruction. So virtually the platform, how it works is that if a farmer is about to do a harvest, or she already done her harvest and she want to sell her produce, so she just need to call this Jokkalante platform now. Right now we connected with QCell, so it's a QCell number that they just have to call, but we're working on trying to get a short code, and then it's going to be toll-free for a start when it's launched. So the farmer will call the number, and then once they call the number, so they just follow the instruction in their very own local language. So because of cost, right now it's only powered in 2 local languages. That's Wolof and Mandinka, and then English. So if you're registering as a farmer, you specify the language you understand. So when you call, like let's say in Wolof, you say Nyunga Agalesi Jokkalante platform. Then from there it will say so buge ñu helala bosal bena, so buge jay salujumi bosal ñaar. So if you place like 2 to sell your produce, then to further tell you, so ame lignon bosal bena, so ame tamate bosal ñaar. So those sort of instructions, and depending on what vegetable you have, you press the corresponding number, and then it will then ask you the quantity in the local language. Once you're done with that, then it will then scan the platform for the orders that are placed by the buyers. So if it finds a match, and then it will then dial the buyer, and then the farmer and the buyer can then negotiate over the phone. But if it doesn't find a match, it will tell the farmer, sorry, no match is found, but it will save the information that is being announced. And then also, if buyers have login and they want to place their order, they can also see the yields that are announced by these farmers. So if they see a yield that's already been announced by a farmer, so they have a call button. They can just click on the web platform. So when they click that call button, then the system will then call their phone, the phone of the buyer. So once the buyer answers the call, then it will then call the farmer, and then it will connect these two, and then they can then talk over the phone. So this is the solution that we've developed for ITC and Ministry of Trade to sort of like bridge the gap between these farmers and buyers, most especially. And also, there's a transporter component wherein after the farmer and the buyer have a deal, then the farmer can then call the platform again, and then once he calls the platform, then the system does a scan of all the transporters that are within the region of the farmer. And then if you then call one of them, then the buyer can then talk to the transporter, so the transporter can then come and pick the produce and then transport it to the hotel. So in summary, that's it about the Jokkalante. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. So I want to highlight a few things there, and then I'll probably revert back to the Ministry of Justice as well as the Ministry of Communications to weigh in on the data that's being collected at that level. So the Roots project, which is funded by IFAD, I believe, I'm not sure. They're currently working on something similar. They call it the Market Information System. And at the same time, it's working on something similar to what Joseph is doing with Jokkalante. But they also provide market information because we have a lot of lumos in the country. So they actually have data collectors that they're working with at the Ministry of Agriculture, and they will collect all this information and load it on the information platform, and then they share this with the farmers when they call in and want to sell their produce. They know that if I cannot get a buyer through the platform, I can go to Lumo X because they're selling onions at $50 per kilo, and Lumo Y is selling at 25. So I'll rather pay and travel and get to Lumo X and sell for double the price than go to Lumo Y. And this shows you the importance of data and how data can really empower these farmers to be able to sell more and also be able to get more for their yield. But in terms of the platform, you forgot to mention Awa, and I really like Awa. So tell us about Awa, Joseph. Who is Awa?
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, we did a consultation about the name. We ended up with the name Awa. Our is actually similar to ChatGPT. I think we're talking about AI. So and then also I think during this session that Menge was managing, he talked about us doing a catch-up. We're always behind when it comes to this innovative solution. So we are at the way we've really had interest in AI for quite a long time, but then it requires a lot of investment and a lot of funding to have the things going, because let's say with AI, it deals with massive data, and especially with the most powerful algorithm. If you want to use those algorithms to develop your AI, you really need massive data. And actually, to get massive data, you really need, like let's say, ChatGPT, they have like hundreds of employees who are actually working on this data, and you actually need to pay them. So in short, working on this AI, it needs a lot of investment, a lot of money, which actually we do not have, and then which really held us back. But then when ChatGPT came to life, so they also made the data available, because for them the data is actually a global data. So now we thought about it. We say, oh, this is something that we wanted to do, but we didn't have the fund to do that. But now they have this thing. But now we need to come up with something that's different from their own. So we said that we're going to localize our own. That's why we had the local name Awa. So at least if you say Awa in Gambia, it's a very common name. Yeah, so we say we have Awa. But now the difference between Awa and ChatGPT is that Awa is more or less a local version of ChatGPT. And like for instance, if you go to, let's say, ChatGPT and you type like, let's say, Mustafa Njai. So ChatGPT will look around the world. ChatGPT will not mind whether that you actually from Gambia, and then will try and look for Mustafa Njai in Gambia. So that's the problem. So it might give you information of Mustafa, a very prominent Mustafa Njai in maybe, let's say, in Senegal. So so what we're doing here is that we want to localize this AI. So that, and then prioritize the local content. If you search for Mustafa Njai, we'll look at, it will give you the profile of the most prominent Mustafa Njai in Gambia. And for instance, if you say, let's say, who is the mayor of KMC? So if you just say KMC, there are a lot of KMC around the world. So ChatGPT will be confused. But let's say with if you ask who is the mayor of KMC, then it will tell that it is actually Talib Bensouda. So in short, that is it. So Awa is more or less a localized version of ChatGPT, and is sort of prioritizing local content. So as a Gambian, we encourage all Gambians to use Awa, because Awa is more or less a local version of ChatGPT, and and we actually have a team right now, though a small team, because this requires a lot of investment. Though we're talking to some stakeholder who can probably maybe support on this. So we already have a small team that's already in the process of getting this local content and then having this local content on board, and then from there later. Then as of now, it's free though. We leave it free so that people can use it and then get to understand it. And at a later point in time, we'll charge, like ChatGPT's premium version, they charge about $20, which is roughly like 1,200. But we want to charge way less than that, maybe nothing more than 500 a month. Thank you.
That's the reason I wanted you to talk a little bit about. Oh, the reason I wanted you to talk a little bit about AWA is because that's AI. What's the current? What is the legislation that we're using for AWA? Is there one? I'm going to float that. Badara shaking his head. I'm going to float that to Amadou and our learned friend. Am I qualified to call you a learned friend? Mr. Sowe. We have AWA, which is from Joseph. We have Fatu, which is from Africell. It's also AI bot. We have a few others floating around. What is the legislation that is being used? Is there one?
Is there one? I doubt it. So AI these are part of emerging technologies and all, big data and all that. And I think for us, what we are doing is to start with a comprehensive feasibility on study on the pros and cons, and of course, come up with a policy direction. Because this is what government does. When you come up with a policy direction, then you see how to legislate some of those things. So I think in a simple text, I'll just say I doubt there is any legislation except our learned council can. Yes. But I know it is something that we are taking up very seriously on emerging technologies, IoTs and all those things, and it is part of our activities that we will do this year to have a policy on emerging technologies and IoTs. And my colleague Sering is actually, before he got redesignated to post and telecoms, he was handling that. So obviously now that will fall under the purview of Lang as head of the e-government directorate. Yes, so essentially that is it. Over to you.
Thank you, Amadou and Muhammad. Joseph, you want to double in? And I know Badara is itching to say something. Joseph, go ahead, and then Badara.
Yeah, I just want to add, I'm not surprised that they're like, even in the US, who are very advanced when it comes to technology. So for them also, because AI has been in the scene for quite a long, but at the stage at which it is right now is very advanced. And it's even posing a threat to humanity. So they were actually laws that were there that could sort of control, but like at the advanced level at which it is right now, there are actually no laws. So actually, that's why in the US they actually have to actually put an embargo on the advancement of AI right now, and for months, so that they now try to come up with an independent body that will work towards regulating this. So I think in the Gambian context, I think you can also learn from other countries that are more advanced than us, because they've triggered the process of working on rules or regulation that can govern the use of AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Badara?
Yeah, sometimes don't mind the Americans. They own 80% of the world AI pattern, them and China. They've been doing this. I just hope these mics are not bugged to China. I think overall, I know we're way back compared to developing nations. You know, sometimes when I look at the budget of the country, agriculture, other stuff, ICT, sometimes you want to shout like, do the government even know the importance of information technology, like the investments that are needed in this sector? Because it's a serious national development enabler that we should definitely look into. If you look around, the COVID-19 was one manifestation. When it came, everything just went standstill. And then we still continue to do these catch-ups when it comes to technology, because it is happening every day. Just recently, we see how Wave is just disrupting our financial system. They're using technology. They're collecting massive data, and all these tools are now injecting AI into the work that they do. I think government should speed up these efforts in coming up with these regulations, because if not, what we do in the Gambia is look at relatable laws, which are almost ambiguous, that will not even be relevant. Because right now, even when it comes to privacy issues, all the thing that we look at is the ICT Act, which I understand is under review or something. So because knowing that how technology move within the next few years, the one that you have is obsolete. You cannot use it to regulate some of these things. And I'm glad to hear that they're working on the cloud computing framework, but we should definitely fix the basics that are needed right now, because that is what is going to take us to the next level. Because if not, we're just going to continue to play catch up with these technologies. Who knows, next day we are talking about this one, tomorrow there will be a new one. And then now that we are so interconnected around the world, you cannot just wait and say it's not happening in my country. Something is there in America, the next minute it will affect people in the Gambia. I know as a small country, our weight is not up to a certain level to fight certain things, but we should definitely work hard in solving some of these basics.
Thank you, Badara. Amadou, you wanted to come again, and then I'll
yeah, thank
go
you.
ahead.
So I just want to align with just taking cue from what Badara just said, especially keeping in view the budgetary allocations. If you look at it, like you said, what comes to ICT is just peanuts. And if you look at what this sector generates to the GDP, it's actually the largest paying, this ICT sector is actually the largest paying taxpayer to the economy. You know, that is AfroCell. Everybody knows that, you know, but what comes back to the ministry is actually peanuts. But the reality is Gambia as a country is a tax-based economy. We need, we collect those taxes not just for the ICT sector, but for other relevant sectors. One time, the budget director at the time told us, well, you have to kind of, you're competing with, let's say the Minister of Health will tell you this is a matter of life and death. We have people on their sick beds. We have people who need, we have kidney dialysis machines. You have people who need medications. And then for us, you're talking about emerging technologies that you want money to do. Are much more critical. Education is there, health is there, agriculture is there. But I want to also say, now government is listening a lot. We have decoupled, and for the first time this year, if you look at the 2023 budget, for the first time, our budget has surpassed $100 million. This is history. For the first time since I joined the ministry. In fact, our budget used to be around 30 something, 40 something. When this government came, then it jumped around to 60 something, 70 something. But this time around is over 100 million. And now you have a flagship project, which is going to, which has a component of connecting digital markets. So I think for us as a ministry, the direction is most of the things we are doing it's not actually from the GLF, from government budget. It has actually been donor driven, in as much as we don't want that to happen. But this is the reality on the ground, because ICT is super expensive. In fact, imagine a submarine cable is $25 million. If you change $25 million to dollars times, that is way more than our so many ministries' budget combined. You look at the secondary submarine cable we're supposed to learn to bring, you know, next year or later this year, it's actually $30 million. Where are you going to get $30 million? You know, you're talking about a data center. That is, you're talking millions of dollars. So in fact, everything we want to do, you cannot do it from the GLF, really. So the GLF is just enough to do a couple of studies here and there. In as much as we don't want to play catch up, sometimes the reality will actually hit us. We are super ambitious, but when you go to budget bilaterals and some of these consultations, the National Assembly members are there with their strike, with their pens. They will always say, this is not relevant, this is not relevant. Because obviously for them, the priority is agriculture and the priority is infrastructure. Because you also have to realize is politicians will always look at some of these infrastructure projects that will bring votes. That is the reality. Some of these ICT related, you cannot touch and feel some of these things. It takes time to understand the digital economy will bring you more money than oil. It takes time to understand some of this, and it takes a lot of sensitization, like we keep saying. It takes a lot of IGFs and a lot of engagement with these politicians for them to understand really this is the direction like Nigeria has achieved. There comes a digital economy ministry, they contribute more to the GDP now than the oil sector. So the Minister Pantami is like a super minister now in Nigeria, because what he brings in oil and the oil revenues is not bringing in that. So I think I want to believe possibly we may get there soon rather than later. I thought I should add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Amadou. I do want to just have a final follow-up before I ask maybe for last contributions before we wrap up. I want to put it out there that maybe the ministry, in terms of the challenges that you've brought forward, maybe I would want this to be captured in the communique. Tell us. How does the ministry feel about creating a working group that is more off the cuff in terms of working with private sector, working with the CSO organizations, working with the grassroots level, to be able to react quickly in terms of these new and emerging technologies? People at the level of the grassroots are the ones using these technologies. Sometimes it takes months before the ministry finds out what's happening in the ecosystem. How about a working group that creates that platform where this conversation is being held more regularly than once a year at the IGF? I think that's what we need to look at. Let's have a working group, the Give One projects, the ITAGs, the Cybersecurity Alliance, all these institutions that are working in the sector, that have hands-on experience in terms of the challenges as well as the good things and come out of these technologies. These are the people that can tell you, hey, this is coming up. We need to brace up. We need to do X, Y, and Z. Sierra Leone is doing A. Dakar is doing B. You don't have that visibility at that short-termish. We do, because we are on the ground. We have foot soldiers that are doing just this because this is our mandate. So we need to find a way to talk more instead of waiting every May to talk. I think that's one thing I want to put out there. And the other thing, in terms of capacity building, we have a lot of technocrats in this country. We have capacity locally. We can train the National Assembly. We had a fantastic training last year, Amadou, where we trained the National Assembly subcommittee on ICTs, I believe. That was an amazing training. Amadou was there. And these are the things we need to do more of. We would happily do these capacity building trainings, because an empowered National Assembly makes it easy for us to explain these things to them, because they would now be in a position to ask the questions we want them to ask, to grill us when we get there, when we take some of these documentation to the level of the assembly. So we have a role to play at the level of the CSOs, as ITAG, as the Cybersecurity Alliance, as Give One. And we can easily come together and say, we want to build capacity at the National Assembly. We want to do a 2-day training on data protection. We can do that. So these are some of the things you need to reach out to us on, so we are available to make this happen. Because when we do it, it's for the benefit of all of us. So that we don't sit in a room, instead of having a full room, we have a half empty one. Because people don't feel like they can relate to the topics we're talking about. That context is what we want to give them. I have to commend the National Assembly. They were here this morning, and they will be here tomorrow. We had 2 people represent them from the Committee on ICTs. They approached me after the opening ceremony, and they said they will be here again tomorrow. But instead of 2, we should be able to pull 8 or 10. But that connection is not there. So for me, these two takeaways is what I want the ministry to take note of. Let us talk more and not wait once a year. And let us give back more in terms of the capacity. Because we can sit here all day and complain, or we can take what we have and share it with the people that need it. So those are the two things I wanted to share. And maybe you guys, I know you guys want to come back on what I said. Go ahead. And then
the National Assembly that I just wanted to say our best practice experience just recently with the UPR, because most of the time National Assembly members, they make these decisions. We come talk to them. You know, I know last year we have had like series of sessions with them on the data privacy bill. So what the UPR, they're doing, an NGO, now they have involved, I think Alaji is even their chairperson, because they've seen all this work that people are doing. These laws will get to the National Assembly and they would not understand it and they will throw it out or wouldn't even discuss it. And now that they've seen how they tested it, Tanzania just enacted a bill through that, because the National Assembly, they've been sensitized on some of these things and it's working out for them. I think Gambia should also work on that, because most of the people we have at the National Assembly cannot even read and write. These people cannot even contribute to these conversations. That's the honest truth. These bills will come, they will present it. You have few who will grill the ministers there, here and there, but majority of the voters don't understand this. If their caucus just vote for it, they just go for it. And then sometimes this affects us. I know one time there was a bill that was returned back to Ministry of Communication, which was very good when it was tabled again, because there was this issue of like, have like a judicial oversight when it comes to collecting certain information with the telcos. It was a very good one. If they understand it, it's perfect. If they don't, it's always a problem for the people.
Thank you. So
I also think Muhammed would want to.
So I was just going to say on the consultations, I think this is really wonderful. For us, this is something that we welcome. In fact, if you look at it, sometime last year or thereabout, there was a committee that was established at the ministry on a national backup committee. And the minister at the time identified the private sector to lead that backup committee. So I think for us, we are very, very, very much aware of the importance of the private sector and of course the civil society. In fact, if you look at the current engagement we are doing with the .gm, we want the 6P to take lead, because as a government, you know, if we put up this fight, obviously at the level of ICANN, they will say, no, this is not government's business. This is the business of the ecosystem. And we want, but sometimes our challenge is, these are business people and sometimes they're way too busy. So sometimes for us, you cannot wait. You have timelines, you have to, and possibly it's not their core business. So obviously their priority is what brings food on their tables. But with civil society, I quite agree. The consultation needs to happen and the engagement needs to happen. I don't know whether ITAG will spearhead the coordination or will have, on cybersecurity, of course, we have the Cybersecurity Alliance give one, but if ITAG can coordinate these engagements, really, it is something that we welcome. And of course, also the engagement we wanted to do last time on this donor conference to address the engagement we were doing with GAMTech. So I think, some of those conversations should happen. We couldn't do it last year, but possibly we can try to have some of those things this year, really. But it is something that we really welcome and we feel it's relevant. Thank you.
Thank you, Amadou. ITAG will happily.
I was going to suggest the model that Gambia Press Union adopted in terms of the access to information. It was pretty much good. I mean, the members of the National Assembly, almost all of them were engaged well before the bill got to them. So they were trained on it. Engagements were happening. Members of the National Assembly they basically understood what the law was about. So when the bill got to them, even some ministers, I mean, were convinced before even the bill got to the cabinet. So when it got to both institutions, both the National Assembly and the cabinet, they just gave it an A, and it passed. So there was no difficulty because they understood what the law is about. They were trained, they were informed. So that is an easy way to buy them out. I mean, Alieu said it. Sometimes even send them documents 6 months ago, they don't read, especially a technical document like cybercrime or data protection. They will not appreciate it if they've not been trained on it, if they don't have a background information about how this law should work and why we need the law. So I think probably, I mean, you can engage with GPU, because GPU used civil society organizations. In fact, GPU and those civil society organizations drafted that law and they presented it to government and it was accepted. So I think we can borrow the best practices from other organizations to ensure that things move smoothly.
Thank you, Muhammad. That's a good tip. So we'll go knocking on Khadija's door. She will put us in touch with the people at GPU that can help us with this. Oh, great. Fantastic. Thank you, Muhammad. Joseph, maybe you want to have some last words?
Yeah, sure. Just to urge my fellow entrepreneurs, because like Amadou mentioned, like let's say in Nigeria, ICT is contributing a lot to their GDP. So the same thing can actually happen in the Gambia here. And a lot, so that being the case, a lot of innovative solutions that needs to be created. So as entrepreneurs, I think we really have a lot to do to come up with innovative solutions that can really help and boost our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. I think our panelists deserve a round of applause. Before we go into Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. I will only take 5 questions because it's 4:30. So first come, first serve. I don't see any hands. What's happening on this side? Are you guys asleep? No? You know everything? So I'll ask you the questions then when they're done. All right. So I have Teres and Ismaila and then Dauda and that's it. Man in a pink shirt. What's your name? Kijera. You know you're a plus. You're putting your hand up. So I have Teres, Ismaila, Dauda, Kijera, and man in a white shirt. Ibrahima. Oh, you're my dad. I can't say man in a white shirt. Ibrahim. Yes. All right, great. So we'll have you, Teres. And please keep your questions to 2-minute interval, and I will time you.
Okay, so mine is short. Amadou, it's directed to you. How fast is the ministry working when it comes to regulating AI and deepfake technologies, especially regarding women and revenge porn? You mentioned doing a feasibility study, but how soon do you think it will be done? Because it's something that's already happened. And if you're going to take your time to like do a whole study and then, you know, draft all those policies, by the time you're done, it would have, you know, like it would have taken over.
That's a wonderful question. I think, let me separate the two. When it comes to AI and emerging technologies, and the example you gave when it comes to revenge porn on women, I think for that one, we are already, it's top on the agenda to see how best to include it in either data or cyber in the cyber bill. But when it comes to AI, we want to do a policy, AI and emerging technology, we want to do a policy first before we legislate it. But on that one, I think we want to handle that under either the Cyber IC Act. I want to consult to be specific, to be on the right. I mean, to be certain. I want to confirm, and then maybe I can refer tomorrow which exact legislation we actually have in that. But I know for a certain it is a concern that came up through one of the consultations, and it is something that is going to be handled. Thank you. I don't know whether you want to add anything to. Okay, thank you.
All right, great. So I think Shoa Gambia will be happy to hear that. I think next on a question, I have Ismaila Jawara. Ismaila? Mike? Is very choppy.
Okay. Mine obviously is more of a recommendation and one clarification. In the morning, we talk about data governance and the case of the SIMLEX. And I went back on the contract document just to clarify that it is not stated anywhere in the contract document as to where the data is supposed to be stored. And only one section talked about the ownership of the data. So just to be clear. The other one is basically to the ministry, you know, based on where I work, you know, I work with the Revenue Authority. Nigeria was able to actually accumulate a whole lot of money revenue from telecom and IT, to be specific, due to a few reasons. And I think obviously the ministry should take up this lead Nigeria has started, taxing multinational corporations that are actually operating within their jurisdiction while they are not within Nigeria. Example of this is Facebook, Google, and Twitter. And this has so many advantages. One, it compels those businesses, to actually have an office within those countries. Or two, actually they are going to be able to pay for whatever services they are actually rendering or enjoying, within our, our economy at the end of the day. So just to make it so, thank you.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that if you look at it, in fact, when we engaged Starlink, that was the first concern. Do you have the market? It's just a little above 2 million, and Nigeria, you're talking about 200 million. So sometimes it's a little difficult because you want to, and you have to understand our terrain is still virgin. So if you want to start taxing these multinationals, it's just a switch off. I mean, it's actually good. As much as they need us, we also need them. We need them for obvious reasons, really. But these are some things that, I think these gatherings are bringing in some of these things, and it's something that we will take up. And of course, the honorable minister has been doing a lot of hopping around, and the Nigerian minister is actually his closest friend. So I think we are doing a lot of benchmarking from them. But the Starlink experience was, you don't have the market. It is something that we had to push really to get the guy here, because it's like, it's just 2 million.
Some regional. Even individuals are paying Facebook ads.
Amadou, you're not on my list. Join the list. Sorry. It's Dauda's turn. Yes, you can join after Ibrahim, my dad, if he allows you to have some of his time. Dauda, please go ahead. Your timer is on.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I guess my question goes to the director of ICT. And then before I ask my question, I guess I would like to commend them or give them a tap on the back for signing up to the Malabo Convention, which is really a plus to the Gambia. Okay, so I guess my question is also based on that actually, because if you look at the Malabo Convention, it has three components. The fourth one being the electronic commerce, then the second one has to do with the data protection and privacy, and then the third is the cyber security. So, but if you look at the three components, actually, I guess we have gone a little bit ahead on the second, which is the data privacy and protection, and then the cyber security, because we already have legislation. But my main worry is the one on the e-commerce. If I tend to be corrected, I'm not sure at the ministry level what is being done when it comes to the legislation on e-commerce. That's my question. And then the other one, just a quick, my opinion on this regulating AI. I guess for me, as someone who is very passionate about education and innovation, I guess we have to be very careful here, because the Gambia, we are very, our innovation ecosystem is at an embryo stage. If we want to regulate AI, I believe we may stifle innovation. and then we have to be very careful. Okay, because I personally I did some part of my education in the US, and then luckily actually my thesis supervisor is an AI specialist, and then recently he did an interview with my for my university, and then that was one of his concern. And even if you look at it in Italy, they banned ChatGPT, and then that's really bringing up a lot of debates, and we have to be very, very careful. If you look at all these Western countries, none of them has a regulation on AI. They are trying to bring certain guidelines. They still guidelines, but not AI, but not
2 minutes is
regulation.
up.
Okay, but actually that's my point. Actually, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
That was the fire alarm.
Yes. Sorry, I
But
scared you.
going this
Your
way.
2 minutes is up. Amadou, why are you laughing?
So I think you're
Go ahead,
right. When it comes to e-commerce, in fact, I think for the past couple of years at this same gatherings we have the IGF. One of the things that will come out is e-commerce platforms. How do we make sure that we facilitate e-commerce platform? And if you look at it, the third on the priorities of the minister is a robust payment gateway. And then, like I said in the morning, the entire fracas between us and the CBG has to do with a robust payment gateway, because to facilitate effective e-commerce, you need that. Because now what happens is most of these vendors will tell you, I need to use another third party. You go on a site, you would want to place your order, but you have to go through a third party to do the payment. And is it even accepting? So we are engaging. We know we have a lot of challenges when it comes to that, but we are engaging. And apart from that, also, I think sometime last month we engaged the fintech, all the fintech players in the ecosystem. We brought them in for a meeting to see how best do we converge, because we know these are challenges. But as a ministry, if we don't talk to the ecosystem, we wouldn't be able to kind of get the right policies around. Of course, government, whatever you do, you have to remember the work of government is actually to have a clear policy directions. Then the private sector can actually implement, or government institutions can implement those policy directions, really. But a direction has to be there. As a country, when it comes to e-commerce, this is what we want to achieve. When it comes to achieving it, we are going to follow these these stipulated guidelines and regulations, really. We are aware, and it is something that is there. So, and then on data protection and cyber, I think we are achieving a lot. But like the conversation we had here earlier, myself and Ismaila here, and a lot of people are actually tapping the ministry. They are commending the ministry, but for us, we feel there is a lot that needs to be done, really. When it comes to policy and regulation, yes, we have done a lot, but really, it shouldn't be business as usual, because the thing is, we are not doing anything. Everybody, we are prone to attack left, right, and center. If you work for GMSAT, you know how vulnerable we are. We have a lot of housekeeping to do, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Amadou. So I'm just going to double back on Dauda. You make a very valid point about stifling innovation. So there's a fine line between ensuring that the regulation is in line, as well as ensuring that you don't over-regulate a specific sector. And I think one of the things we need to look at, I can give an example. I think recently we had a radio that was spewing some abuse, the radio King FM, I think, I'm not sure. And there were some discussions in some groups that I'm in about regulation of media. And there was also discussion on the fine line between regulating the radio itself and regulating the content that is being sent out over the radio. So it's a fine line. I think right now it's just having that conversation, just so we ensure we're not a decade behind. We don't sit and wait until it's time to regulate the ecosystem before we start talking about AI. We need to start having that conversation now, then build up to that policy and eventually that bill or that regulation. So I know your concerns, and we CSOs are here to fight for you guys and make sure we protect innovation at all costs. But I also think those conversations need to happen now rather than 5 years' time. Joseph, you want to double back before I go to Kijera? Go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly, I think avoid a situation wherein, like what's happening right now, with the police, a case is reported, they process it, they do their security, and then give it to the prosecutor unit, and then from there they cannot go further because there's no law. No, I think then that's the reason why we're saying we want to have laws to govern AI, and I think we can actually have reasonable laws if all the necessary stakeholders are actually involved on board, because AI is advancing at a level wherein actually it needs to be regulated, and a crime can actually be committed by an AI agent that could have been otherwise be done by a human being. Normally people can actually sit on the internet and then do their and do a malicious act, but then an AI agent can actually be created and then do the malicious act without the involvement in any human person. So I think this is why we said that we really need to have these things before we actually have to catch up. Thanks.
Yes, I know very soon the next IGF, I will not write my speech. I will just go to ChatGPT and download one. Kijera, you're next.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm indeed glad to be here today. I've been operating a cyber cafe for over a decade now, but unfortunately, I've never been exposed to such an event. But alhamdulillah, today I am here and I've been learning a lot since the beginning. So what I want to know is that the internet governance, what is their stance in issues like internet censors, net neutrality, and of course, online privacy? I want to know their stand on such issues.
I think we have quite a few number of people that can answer this question, but I'll try. I think, Kijera, maybe what we'll do is after this session, I'm going to introduce you to the Internet Governance Forum so you can become a member, because there are a lot of different tracks at the level of the national internet governance. We also have the regional one, which is called the West Africa IGF. Then we have the continental one, which is the Africa IGF. And then we have the global IGF. So you have like a tier. So the national IGFs happen, and then that feeds into the regional, which feeds into the continental, and then it feeds into the global IGF. And all these things happen once every year. So what I'm going to do is after the session, we can talk. I'm happy to share that with anybody else. We will share the Internet Governance Forum details. You can become members and become active in this ecosystem. We don't have a lot of representation coming from Gambia in terms of the ecosystem, in terms of voicing out some of these challenges that we have locally. So this is something that I would encourage you to have. It's great to have someone asking some of these questions, and I'm happy to do one aside and share this information with you later on. And if anyone else is interested, please join us in Amadou's Corner. We have an extra hand. Oh, so you guys are awake now. Ibrahima, my dad, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So I just want to bring in a child protection perspective here, because traditionally child right issues in the Gambia are child marriages, FGMs and stuff. But recently, cyberbullying, grooming has become an emerging child right issue in the country that we need to face with. And I've heard somebody say that now, on the internet, you could use algorithms, if that is the right word, to influence the way children behave. And someone just made mention of maybe using a chatbot or an AI agent, to commit a crime. And this could also be a crime against children. So how do we protect children online, especially in this technology era? So that's what I want to ask. And then probably the experts in here could throw in their weight on that particular subject.
We actually have the perfect person that can answer that, but she's not here. I'll take note of you guys, the two of you, for the next questions. Annette, she was here just now. I don't know if Teres, you wanna jump in on that. He did mention something about child protection. If Annette isn't in the room, there's somebody else. Please feel free to jump in. Ibrahima, do you want to come in with the question again so that he can respond?
issues of child protection online. Yes. Okay. So basically, I said a lot has been said, but I've not had an issue of protecting children online. So in all this that we are doing, where do we fit in children? How do we protect children online, especially that cyberbullying and grooming are becoming an issue? And someone made mention of, probably using algorithms. I said, if I said that word right, to influence the way children behave. So what do we do exactly as a country to protect children online?
That's a very good question. I think the CPA are here. Teres, you are from CPA. Oh, Teres, what did you say? Shao Gambia, yes. If we have Shao Gambia to please come in and answer that question, that would be great. And please tell us what Shao does as well, so that people know what you do.
Good afternoon, everyone. As an organization, what we normally do is to educate young ones on internet usage, how to keep themselves safe when using the internet. Because we all know that when you come to the cyberspace, there is no one who is 100% safe. But as the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. Is what we normally train people on how to behave online. Most of the time, your behavior, the way you normally behave offline should apply to when you are online. You should not behave anyhow you feel like, because no one can protect you better than you can protect yourself. Then these things start from you personally. The things that you don't want people to see in the long run, or the things that you don't want your parents to see, or the things that you don't want to see when you're getting age, don't put them online. So these are the kind of things that we normally train young ones on how to behave online as an organization. But looking at last time we had a discussion on this thing, we believe that the government should find measures in order to control the usage of internet, because we know that these are open source platforms that each and everyone come with different motive to do different things that they want. Like I might go there to make research, but the other one sitting at Djibouti might go there to hack me or to deformate my character. So everything begins from the individual, him or herself, that you should behave, or your behaviors offline should apply to when using the space. And the other thing is that when you're having your kids personally, you should observe, or you should be monitoring them, what they do online. But you cannot just give them a telephone or a mobile. You provide internet for them. Whatever they do, you don't know. You just leave them like that. It is very important to monitor your kids on what they do. If you know that you cannot, or you don't know some of these things that they do, it is very important, to ask people on some of the sites that you know that my kids should not visit them, or some of the sites that your kids are visiting, are they necessary or are they good for them? So these are fundamental points. As an organization, that what we normally do, we train people. Normally we have what we call cohort training. We are on our 4th cohort training on digital safety and internet safety as well, how to keep themselves. So it is very fundamental for each and everyone. My advice is that you protect yourself better than anyone can protect you. So the protection starts from you. When you are in the internet, know how you behave, know what to put there. Because as far as the content is with you, at that time, you can change anything that you want to change. But immediately you press the send button, you cannot control it. Within seconds, millions of people will have access to what you put in. If you say that, let me delete it so that it goes out of the internet, how many thousands of people have the screenshot? How many thousands of people have that in their telephone? So you protect yourself better than others can protect you.
Thank you, Shoa Gambia. I also want to maybe throw the question back to the panel. I don't know whether if the Ministry of Justice has anything they want to weigh in on in terms of laws protecting children online. I think that's probably where more of where his question was going. We do have the private sector angle from Shoa Gambia, but do we have the public sector angle? Badara, you want to come in?
Yeah, he made mention of the example that I was giving in relation legislations are good, But before it gets to that, sometimes the damage is done. And I think the government should work with the relevant ministry in introducing digital rights education in one of the levels. If it is not at the lower level, but at least a certain level when it comes to cybersecurity training or this internet safety awareness, or how it is we're going to work around it. Because right now, everything that we used to do offline is transferred online. And then we've seen how children are just so consumed in this TikTok thing. Even, and if I say this, I don't know how to use TikTok. People will laugh, but it's just about, I'm careful about security issues. That's why I don't use TikTok. But now that everyone is using it, at the end of the day, you cannot even save yourself from it, because it's either one way or the other that people will be involved. And then the content that are being generated beyond what he was even saying, like this, they're controlling the mindsets of our children. It becomes like a psychological issue, like where they get the minds of our children, any product that they want to sell online, they use these platforms, and then everyone is there consuming it. Like it's really worrisome. Like, what is the future of our country when it comes to how people are behaving online? I know most of the time I will call Ismail or Amadou when these things happen, but the truth is, Gambia, we don't even have the talent pool to even handle some of these things, because the curriculum is not there. We don't have the experts to handle this. And then how many times do we have to wait when these damages are done and then we want to revert it? We're talking about children, even elderly people are victim of these things. Like, I know even a simple government Facebook page is taken down, they could not take it back. I saw it with one of the councils, like when someone just went and deleted all the admins, they couldn't just recover that. They have to go and open a new Facebook page. So I know, in as much as we want to talk about these things, but the education aspect is very important. CSOs, organization will continue to do it, but the government must embrace this. If the government does not embrace, we would still wait on this. It's going to take forever, and then we will come back, new issues will come up, new technologies will come, and then we'll be crying about it. That's why the issue of regulating AI that Dauda was saying, no, we have to, at least we need to put in certain basics, because if not, it's not good for our country.
Thank you, Badara. So Ibrahima, what we'll do is we can happily share a copy. I do have two people here, and then we'll close off. We'll happily share a clean version of the data protection bill that's been circulated, but Article 8 of the data protection bill does talk about the processing of child data, and it clearly specifies the age the child has to be before they can be deemed as giving consent in terms of sharing their data and other aspects. So I can happily share that with you after the session here, and then I'll send it to your email. You could review. It is a public document, correct? Before I start sharing. Yes, it's a public document. So I'll do a wrap up, and then we'll close for today. I will go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Awa Kebe, and I am an intern at the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Welfare. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to the panelists for this forum. It's very interesting, and I've learned something new, and I believe we all did. So my question goes to the director. My question is, what is the biggest challenge that the government faces when it comes to data governance? What are some of the biggest challenges that you guys face? Thank you very much.
That's a big one. Apart from what my brother had just said here, infrastructure, I think for me, it has a lot to do with awareness. People need to be aware. You know, awareness is very, very critical, but infrastructure is key. We need to have the right infrastructure to be able to host our data locally. And like I said before, like we want it to, really, that is our biggest challenge, really. A lot of awareness and having the right infrastructure in place. When it comes to policies and legislation, those are actually peanuts, but having the infrastructure in place and making sure that people are aware of what needs to be done, I think for us, those are the critical things. Over to you.
Thank you, Amadou. So I'm going to come back and say awareness. You can use us as vehicles because we already have those grassroots. Our tentacles are already out there. So I think we just need to do more of dialogue and be able to get some of this information out there in terms of making people really know what's going on. When you click that next button, when you put in your details, especially your date of birth, your name, your surname, this is personal information that people happily give away in Gambia. Name, date of birth, surname, just promise them that they will win something. And they'll happily give personal data away. And this is extremely dangerous. And I think we really need to also strengthen organizations like Sowe Gambia that are doing fantastic work and not in the GBA. Most of the work that they do is in the provinces. They are always out in the provinces, creating awareness and really making the young people know some of the challenges that they can face by sharing all this data online. I think I have Mustafa as the last question. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it is indeed a great pleasure to be here and also gaining new knowledge with regards to ICT. My question would not be specifically a question, but a query at least. The whole day we are talking about the internet governance, and we are in a room where we are not connected to the internet. I think perhaps tomorrow, hope the day two, the internet will be provided so that we might be connected and then discuss more about the internet. Yes, now my question will go to the ministry. How best can you assure us that the ministry is working tirelessly on reducing cyber threats and attacks on the people of the Gambia? Because if you look at WhatsApp groups and Facebook, online, being it TikTok, Twitter, anything you go, there are cyber threats and attacks that they will ask you to feel like, for example, they will say this is from AfriCell, they are giving 50 megabytes, so feel this and this and this and this and this. How best is the government working on that? And also the introduction of AI. Perhaps those that graduate might be willing to use AI, but for us that are coming, it might lead us to be, let's say, dumb in academics, because anything you are asked as an assignment, instead of going to make research, you go to AI and copy it straight away and then fill it on a paper. Then after all, you will graduate, whereby you will face an interview and you cannot say anything. So how is the government also working on that to reduce at least, or to put age limit on AI? Yes. Yes. Your
2 minutes is up, Mustafa.
Yes, the third question will go to Madam. How best is the IGF of the Gambia working on decentralizing things? That is, next year we at least shift to another venue around BASE or CRR. So those are the 3 questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I'll answer mine first, or you want to answer yours? That question is not even for me, it's for Madam Chair. I'm just chairing this panel. She's chairing the entire committee.
So
go ahead.
Thank you. Let me start with the second one on AI. I think we expect possibly the University of the Gambia or learning institutions here to have some of those tools that will filter some of those things. So if you do your assignment from Google or from any AI, chat GTP, obviously it will be 100% similarity, or and then that's a 0 for you. So essentially, people need to be aware and be responsible. I think sometimes this is why some of us will say, some of these people coming out of the universities, we don't know how they are getting these degrees. I'm sorry, but sometimes we really need to have that conversation as a country. If we got it wrong, it's from the education. If we want to get it right, it's from the education. On the first one, I think we have, as a ministry, we are very, very serious. Like I said in the morning, now you have a whole directorate responsible for cybersecurity, and we have appointed a director for cybersecurity. We are coming up with a legislation on cybercrime, we have a cybersecurity policy and strategy. On the infrastructure, the GMSAT is established. A digital forensics lab is established at the police. I think a lot is happening just to make sure that we are really serious. I think this was the reason why a lot of people were commending the ministry, like I said before, but we know we still need to do a lot as a country. It is not just our responsibility as a ministry, but I think it is the responsibility of each and every one of us here. And finally, I would just say we need to take this conversation one-on-one at our homes and everywhere, because providing some of your details, I think like Beran said, we happily give our details. You see a funny message that essentially this is very funny. I had a friend, it's like, I'm being told I'm winning this. I said, no, come on, don't mind this. But come on, the guy thrusted. I was surprised, really. And this is an educated person, really. So if someone educated can trust some of these messages, how about our folks out there, really? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Amadou. So in terms of the IGF, I think it's a fantastic question. And I think that will be a challenge for us, the steering committee. Amadou, Khadija, you guys are still here, Menge, Ismaila, the rest of the team. I think we need to take this back to the steering committee and really discuss how we can work with the National Youth Council at the level of their representatives in the regions to possibly have a grassroots IGF maybe, and then build up to the national IGF. This could be something that we could look at, and I'm sure this could be something we can work out the logistics on. A lot of the steering committee members come from all the regions. We have a very diverse steering committee, so I think this could be possible, maybe even next year. So we'll capture it in the communique and we'll take it as a challenge. So thank you for that, Mustafa. I think that was a fantastic question. I'm just going to do a quick wrap up. Just to remind you of what was discussed for those that just came in from the Youth IGF. So we'll thank the Ministry of Justice representative, Muhammed. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Muhammed, in his interventions, he did touch on he welcomed how the data protection bill was able to clearly define data in terms of the current trends and taking into account technology as we know it today, clearly defining data subjects and who has oversight over the data, the authority and the commissions that will be created when the bill is enacted. And he also recommended some best practices for when we do want to have some success with some of the bills that are coming through to the National Assembly, to possibly do awareness campaigns at the level of the National Assembly and some of the subcommittees that are in charge of some of these bills. So we will take note of that, Muhammad. Thank you so much for those kind words. Joseph from the Webway, that's also by extension, rolling out a Jokkalante app, connecting farmers to buyers. The question arose, how is the data that's collected from the farmers, how is that being regulated? How is AI, how is that being regulated? Is it as value added as it is risky? What is that fine line? And these were some of the things we discussed. And what I wanted to highlight here, which I wasn't able to highlight when we spoke, was the Roots project and their market information system. They're also doing literacy training, which I found really interesting. They're teaching farmers how to recognize numbers and how to weigh their produce. Because if you're going to use a platform like Jokkalante, you're going to have to know how much weight you're selling, how many kilograms, how many tons. If you are not literate, you're not going to know how many kilograms of potatoes you have done for harvest. Who's going to do that weighing for you? So the Roots project has gone that extra level of grassroots capacity building, and they're actually doing literacy training for farmers. They're teaching them 1, 2, 3, as simple as that, how to add numbers and how to weigh their produce, which I think would really count well in making sure your platform is a success. Moving on to Amadou Nyang, thank you for staying. He's been here the entire day from morning. So thank you for coming and thank you for staying. I mean, you touched on the importance of developing policy, developing bills afterwards, but then we did discuss the possibility of engaging grassroots organizations like ITAG, like Cybersecurity Association, and other associations that are out there that have grassroots connection to be able to really support your policy work and be able to fast track some of these things so that we're not able to play as much catch up in terms of creating or developing those regulations and those bills. And last but not the least, I have my Badara Sopulo, who's made some very, very interesting, I would say, suggestions and clarifications, and truly educated us in terms of the importance of data, putting it into context to the everyday person using the internet, and also clearly defining the importance of having those conversations early. And I think that is something that was also highlighted by our gentleman from the CPA. It's really important that we know some of these bills and laws that are being enacted. We need to read these documents. And I think also the onus is on us as associations to ensure that we create symposiums where some of these policy documents and some of these bills and regulations are discussed. And I think that was what Badara was pushing, and we will do better. We will do better. That's a promise. So let's talk next year and see how far we've gone. But I think that's a wrap in terms of the interventions that has happened. We thank you for your time. We thank you for staying till after 5, and we'll see you all tomorrow.